I got bad news, and I'm not a doom and gloomer. I'm absolutely not one of those people. I actually can't stand doom and gloomers. You know, nobody gets out of this life alive. Nobody. That's just reality. But people that live their life in fear are, I'm going to use the word accurately, pathetic. You know, they've spent their whole life in fear and they never really live. And that, of course, is horrible. There's a difference between being prepared and seeing what's going on around you and you having your head on a swivel and, you know, being a coward in the corner. You know, you have your arms around your knees and you're rocking back and forth, and, you know, that's sort of fear. I see people like that everywhere now, especially in big cities. And big cities, they're watching what we call it, the idiot box. I call it the idiot box, the TV. Yeah, television. You break that word apart, the word etymology. Television. Yeah. Should we call it the brainwashing device? Man, I see so much fear-mongering. There was a time in Paris, which of course the French, we could talk about the Polish people. They couldn't see it coming. Like, people had their head on a swivel. They knew it was coming. And they got the heck out of Dodge, or they stood up. You know, they prepared themselves before it hit. You know, the poop hit the fan. So kind of a perfect analogy is, and what's going on in the world today, and I've been looking at a lot of different things. I mean, a lot. And I don't just mean like focusing, because that's all the news is about. I don't watch, you know, pay attention to those fools because they love showing, you know, horrible things. You know, they paint the world as completely horrible by showing you all the bad stuff. It's like, look at this. They're burning and looting in Portland, and Chicago is, you know, a satanic armpit, which parts of it are. I've been there. my someone I was dating lived in Chicago, and ooh, man, whew, I've been there a few times, which doesn't mean anything. So you focus on all the horrible things and not have an accurate picture. And it's kind of like cops. And I'm not trying to single out cops at all, but they have a crappy job. You know, if you stick your head in the toilet all day long as a job, you're going to think the whole world looks and smells like poop, right? Because I don't care if you like or don't like cops, the people they deal with are they're the worst. I mean, they are. They see things that you would not want to see, and if you saw it, you wish you hadn't seen it. But if you have your head in the toilet all day long, everything just starts to look and smell like poop. And so that's the reason why there's, of course, people watching the idiot box, and they're living in fear. But discounting all of that, which I certainly do discount, what's going on right now, and it's really kind of a perfect analogy, is that, and I think there's some movies like this. There's places I've driven like this in Tennessee where you're going down this, you know, if your brakes ain't working, you in trouble, girlfriend. Especially if you're driving a semi-rig, where you really, really, really need your brakes. That the bus, the wheels are about to come off the bus, but right now the brakes have burned out. But the people that have their head on a swivel can see that the driver, whatever you want to call it, the driver, you know, is like applying the brakes and the bus ain't stopping. But we're still cruising down the hill. It doesn't matter yet because we haven't picked up enough speed. So you got like 2% of the people in the bus, the ones that are sitting up front, is like, yeah, the bus driver keeps hitting the brakes and ain't nothing happening. But everybody else in the back of the bus, like 98%, la-di-da-di, everything's fine. Nothing. They have no idea. They haven't got a clue. It's exactly what happened in the 30s and 40s in, you know, Poland and France and Hungary and Czechoslovakia. They're just oblivious. They really are. So everybody's whistling in the back of the bus, whereas this very small percentage of us, you know, are looking at a lot of stuff. And I don't just mean the fear and doom on the television. I don't give any credence to any of that stuff. Facts are facts, however. You know, not everything on the news is inaccurate. If you got video of what's going on, you know, as long as it's not CGI generated, which I know it's not, it's like, yeah, well, that's going on. I know what to dismiss. The world is cruising for a bruising, as the old saying goes. I've never seen so many people that are so oblivious to the truth before in my life. They hate the truth. I mean, they really, really hate it. You can see it. If you have eyes, you can see it. You know, also to the people that are like this, everything going on in Australia, for example. I'll have like one in 100 Australian tell me this. I have no idea what you're talking about. Everything's fine down here. You know, and there's a whole hundreds and hundreds of these Australians like agreeing with me. It's like, it's horrible, man. It's horrible. But you know, one out of every few hundred Australians. Yeah, you're just crazy, man. None of this going down here. It's like, yeah, it is. Actually, about 5 Australians, not trying to single out the Australians, they said, I don't believe you about these people being denied medical care because they haven't been juiced. It's like, and in that video that I made on that, there's like over 1,000 Australians. Like, yeah, I know what's going on. This happened to my brother, or this happened to so-and-so. So you have well over 1,000 Australians. Like, you're right. I have Australians contacting me, some of which have videoed me from Australia. One of them videoed me from Bondi Beach, Australia. I know the guy lives there. I know he's Australian. I've known him for a long time. He's denied medical care because he's not juiced. And yet you have his handful of people. They're just like the folks sitting in the back of the bus. You know, the brakes are out. The bus is going down a steep hill like one of those in Tennessee. It goes like downhill for 4 miles. And if your brakes are shot, you are up the creek, girl. They're just in the back of the bus. Was a everything's fine. That's what's going on in the world. Was that analogy accurate enough? Did I make it lucid? Did I make it transparent? So the wheels are going to come off the bus. I'm not a doom and gloomer at all. There's all these entities that are crushing business. They're destroying the economy on several fronts. And they're engaging in exactly what I knew they would do. And I've talked about it analogously. This is what happened in Australia. You know, they tighten their hands around the neck of the Aussies, and then they loosen the grip. People catch their breath. Like, everything's fine, man. It's just temporary. And then they tighten it even tighter, which is exactly what's happening in Australia. It's exactly right now what's happening in Europe. Not my opinion. Fact. What happened to Australia last year and this year, well, they tightened it, loosened it up, and then they tightened it even tighter. It's exactly what's happening right now in Europe. Austria, hardcore. You got to be juiced or you're going to go to jail. There are Australia YouTubers that people have pointed me to. One's like a bearded guy who lives out in the woods of Austria. Man, I mean, this guy looks like he could whip anybody's fanny. Fanny, by the way, in American English means butt. It doesn't mean giblets. That's also too another American thing we call the other parts. We call them giblets. That's the Southern saying. If you didn't know that, this guy looked like he could whip anybody's butt or giblets. You know, he's scared to death. Watched a few of his videos. Never heard of him before until some Austrians pointed me out to him. It's going hardcore in Hungary, Serbia, Germany. A bunch of Germans have told me they're absolutely scared poopless over what Germany's about to do. I don't need to get into all the details. But I mean, you thought it was bad in Australia. Europe is about to go full-on wackadoodle. Greece has gone nuts. Austria's gone nuts. Germany is going to go full-on nuts. A couple people were popped and their lives were ended in the Netherlands. It was in Rotterdam. Yeah, it was in Rotterdam, yeah. Bunches and bunches and bunches and bunches of people. Did you hear the people that were snuffed in Rotterdam? Yeah, I got sent the video. A bunch of people go over there and you guys laying on the ground. There's blood everywhere. That's just an isolated incident. That's anecdotal, of course. It's like, did it happen? Of course it happened. We don't need to talk about the circumstances. I mean, it's just an isolated thing. Yeah, of course it is, but it speaks to a larger thing about what's happening. And in Canada, there's a viral video of this kid that's unjuiced. He's in school, and the cops, stand him up. You got 3 cops around him like he's a dangerous kid. He's just unjuiced. Handcuffing the guy behind his hands. School kid. Congratulations, Canada. Oh, Canada. Oh, Canada. And I'm not actually singling out Europe and Canada. I mean, I pick on the United States all the time, so I don't want anybody to think I'm picking on Europe and Australia or New Zealand. But I mean, the wheels are coming off the bus. It's rolling down at high speed, and there ain't no brakes on the bus. if you're completely evil and you had a reset mindset, and there is a reset, it's like, we're going to take care of all these worthless, materialistic, worthless eaters. We're going to shut down the world. There's going to be like a ruling class of us, and there's going to be... I don't want to get into that. Actually, I don't want to talk about that because... Not because it's grim, which of course it is, but that's exactly what's going on. I don't think that. I know that. You can't even explain 1/10 of what's going on in this world via the koof. You can't. There's just way, way, way too much total destruction, tyranny, just tyrannical totalitarianism going on that cannot be explained by the koof. Sorry, you don't agree with me? Don't care. I'm right, and you are wrong. Flat out, period. You are wrong. You cannot explain all this on the koof. Sorry, you can't explain global tyranny and destroying everybody's lives on the koof. I'm sorry. Can't do it. Can't be done. These people that think they know better than you and me, they can't build anything, they can't do anything. They don't understand anything. And the other reason why the brakes have failed on the bus, shall we say, is because the whole world is living in a nutshell of their own creation and sniffing their own farts of their ignorance. They cannot and will not acknowledge the truth. The truth has become ultimate heresy. If anything will tell you that the brakes have failed and the wheels are rolling off the bus, about to pop off the bus as it's rolling downhill at high speed without brakes, is the fact that truth has become absolute heresy. Truth has become absolute heresy. And that cannot stand. That violates natural order. It violates the flow of natural order. And that is what's destroyed the brakes. Truth, reason, logic, and wisdom are the brakes on the bus. And globally, even though there's hot spots like here in the South where people have their heads, most of us do, have our heads screwed on straight, and we know what the hell the difference is between up and down, left and right, good and bad, other than isolated pockets throughout the world. Truth are the brakes on the bus. And truth has now become a heresy. You have a crazy person remove the brakes before the bus trip. That's heresy. Can't talk about that. Can't talk about it! Why can't you talk about it? Why are you afraid of talking about truth? Here's the facts. Boom, 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 boom. No, can't talk about that. We can't have you talking about that. No. All over the place. People have gone wackadoodle insane. They have let their emotions rule them, and that's why they've become animals. Human beings are not actually humans, or humane, without facts, logic, and reason. It's like, you know what people say, you be reasonable. When someone says be reasonable, what that means is don't be emotional, irrational, and insane. Reason must dictate. There are times for emotions, like when you're engaged in intimate activities with your girlfriend or your wife, and you have feelings for something stupid your children did or didn't do. Those are the times for emotions, to a point. When it has to do with living your life and doing what is logical and reasonable, those are not the places for emotions. People have become completely irrational, emotional, and they become, even though they're two-legged upright critters, they're not humans anymore. You have these crazy people that won't listen to facts, logic, and reason, and that means the brakes not only have failed on the bus, they were never put on the bus to begin with before the trip downhill, one of those high roads in Tennessee like I've driven on. So it's going to fail. The only way that the bus could be saved as it's hurtling down the hill without brakes is something that you would only see in a comic book. Not that I read comic books. Some superhero arrives and averts a complete catastrophe. It's not going to happen. Human beings don't have, they're not humans anymore. These people, they're irrational, they're living in fear, they don't listen to facts, logic, and reason. It's going to fail. And I am not a doomsayer. I can't stand doomsayers. But there is no downside to being a prepared person. No downside at all. That would be like someone stupidly saying, "Why are you wearing a brake? Are you worried you living in fear of a car wreck?" It's like, I'm doing it because I'm reasonable. I love when people say, because I used to be, still am, a concealed carry instructor, DOCJT, Department of Criminal Justice. Why would you need to carry something like that? I've heard this before. You've heard this before too. Why are you carrying that? You're living in fear? You afraid something's got to happen that you need to you need to pack iron in your pocket? The answer to those people, because they're irrational, illogical, and unintelligent, and uneducated too. It's like, no, why do you have house insurance? Well, I could have a fire. There you go. You living in fear of a fire? No, it's just smart to have fire insurance. Like exactly the same thing. Why do you have a fire extinguisher in your house? Why do you have a smoke alarm in your house? Why do you wear a seatbelt? Why? Why do you have health insurance? You afraid of getting sick? It's the same thing. These people don't think. They run off of emotions and feelings. They have no reason within them. They walk on two legs. Yeah. But they are not reasonable. And by that very fact, they are not humane. And in so being not humane, they're not technically. I'm not dehumanizing them, but it's like these people are not to be dealt with, associated with. It's like you want them to come up out of the pit of their own ignorance. But they love it down there. It's like, I like this dark hole. It's like, it's wet and dark down here, but I like this pit of ignorance. Like, okay, you stay there then. I'll give you a hand up, or I'll send you down a rope or a ladder to climb out of this, this deep pit of ignorance and living off of emotions and being irrational. They don't want out. See, that's actual real compassion. They want you to come. They don't want out of the hole. What they want is for you to climb down there in the hole with them. Come down here. It's dark and wet, and my vision's starting to fail, but come down here. It's like, no, I'll help you out of the hole. No, I don't want out of the hole. I want you to come down here. I'm laughing not because it's funny, but because it's so accurate. It's going to fail. And it's going to fail within the next 5 years. Probably sooner than 5 years, actually. Humanity either takes a U-turn and starts being rational and logical, or they're whistling Dixie in the back of the bus, that has no brakes and is gaining speed and it's going to go right off the cliff. Because those buses are top heavy, and once it hits a current turn and the driver goes, there's no brakes, and the whole thing tumbles and it goes over the side of the cliff. There's a hole like that. I think it's a well hole I went to once, and my buddy took me there. I don't know what was dug there, but it's a cap on it. You take the cap off. You drop a rock down it, and you could hear it hitting the side walls. It just keeps going and going for minutes and minutes and minutes, and it never hits. It's like what? It's going to hit bottom eventually. Oh, God. I wish this weren't true because it's not funny. The truth has become such an evil idea to these people. The fact that it's, like a shining light, on a vampire or something, shining sunlight on a vampire. It's like, get it out of my face. Like, that tells you everything you need to know. It's like, well, I know what that guy is. He won't come out in the sunlight. The guy's a vampire. He's evil. When people act like vampires regarding sunlight, pertaining truth, hey, that guy's evil. I'm not going to associate with him. Here's some stuff to educate yourself. You could actually become a reasonable person, but otherwise I want nothing to do with you. Was that succinct enough?